What's up, everybody? We are going live here on the Falcons Podcast. Give me just 1 second. We're going to loop in our friends over there on Facebook and on Twitter, and then we will be live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, we are live. My name is Garrett Chapman, and this is the Falcons Podcast. And look, we got a Falcons game coming up on Sunday. I know the season hasn't necessarily gone the way a lot of people really want it to, but you're sitting at 4-8. You got 5 games left on the season. And you know what? We are going to be clamoring for these games as the season goes on and as we get into the spring, so that's one of those things. I know a lot of people have started floating around those ideas of just not watching or completely checking out or anything else like that. I say, bull. Don't do that. Don't do that. You wait all year for these games, and you have 5 of these left. So let's talk a little bit about those and welcome into all of our good friends here. We see some people starting to come on into the live show. Welcome in, welcome in. We're going to do a little bit of a preview here. I'm going to give you one key metric that I think favors the Falcons on Sunday, and then I think it actually lead to a potential Falcons win. But look, we'll see if they can actually put it all together. But it's been kind of difficult for them to do all season. But at the end of the day, look, this team still has a couple of things that they can accomplish. We've talked about it a lot here on this podcast. We're trying to keep things at least relatively positive as much as we can. But I will take your questions. I see some people jumping in here into the live chat, and I'll get to your questions as soon as I can. If you have them, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have things you want to say, things you want me to talk about, things you want me to address, I will be more than happy to do so. But I do want to start here with kind of my brief thoughts here about the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday before we dig into some of your questions and go from there. I also have an update on the injury report that fans will need to know about. But the first things first, this is a really good team that you're facing. Newsflash, 9-3 Seattle Seahawks team is really good at football. But it's the way that they do it. I think that makes it so interesting. They're going to be a fun team to watch. And really, at the end of the day, it's a program or franchise that's gone in the absolute opposite direction of this Falcons team. They hire a new head coach at the same time as the Falcons do. Granted, in a different type of situation, but they had a journeyman quarterback, Geno Smith, turned to another journeyman quarterback with Sam Darnold, and they've turned I can't say those things. There's a very negative expression there that I probably shouldn't say. I have to respect the licensing and everything else of the YouTube page. But no, they've been able to turn, let's say, water into wine. Let's put it that way. But this is a pretty good Seahawks team, and they come in and they do it with balance on offense. They have some really dynamic playmakers on defense. They get after the passer really effectively. They're, I believe, 4th in the NFL in sacks, right behind the Atlanta Falcons. So Kirk Cousins and this offensive line are going to have to be on their A game. But ultimately, it's the fact that you have Jackson Smith-Njigba that you're going to have a chance to watch at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Sunday. He is one of the very best players in the NFL this season. He is an absolute treat to watch play football. And I think that ultimately that's going to be a lot of fun with Kubiak's system and everything else that he's got coming on there. How do you slow this guy down? Because the guy had no deep air yards last week, and it's something that I think that, what was it, the Vikings who took that away from him. I think that was a very intentional thing, and they were able to phase him out, but they had no offense to speak of. So just don't do what the Vikings did. I think that's a pretty decent key to a victory, if you will. But Smith-Njigba, this is a guy who, where's the stat? He set the record for the most yards since ever in NFL history before the month of December in an NFL season. He's well on his way to breaking the NFL record. At least tying. He's right there in that same vein. He should be right there with what Julio Jones did I think it was 2015. Very exciting player, but it's the balance that they do it with the run and the pass. You have Zach Charbonnet, you have Kenneth Walker the third. He's that back there in that backfield. It's going to be a very difficult test here for this Falcons defense. But the secondary, I think they'll be ready for this kind of test. I think ultimately the biggest thing here for them is the fact that you have a pass rush who is 3rd in the NFL in sacks. That's not something that we've been able to say here in Atlanta for a very long time. And I think that ultimately you're going to be able to lean on your defense here against the Seahawks team. And that gets me into this big key stat that I was talking about. It's the fact that if you get some pressure onto Sam Darnold, we've seen historically that this guy turns into a pumpkin. And eventually he's going to do it. It's just something that he's done over the course of his career. He had a great year last year for the Minnesota Vikings, kind of wilted down the stretch. Maybe he learned from that. Maybe he's not, he learned and now he's turned over a new leaf, maybe, but I'm not going to count on it. History tells us something else. So eventually you're going to start seeing that decline. And you know what really encourages a precipitous drop is having a 275-pound man hitting you in the face. And the Falcons have a couple of those. And I think that they got some guys who are really coming into their own. They are getting after the passer really effectively here over the last couple of games. Last week, they don't get after Tyrod Taylor as much as they had in previous weeks. I mean, snaps their consecutive streak of 5+ sacks. Still get a lot of pressures. James Pierce still gets a sack in that game. You see the signs, and I start seeing some of that progress from them. And that's something where you get pressure onto Sam Darnold and you start forcing some mistakes. And that's a spot where you can really take advantage of the Seahawks team. Slowing down the offense with Kubiak and all these other guys, it's going to be very difficult, right? You're not going to get a second consecutive game of Jackson Smith and Jigba not doing anything, right? He wasn't really a factor against the Vikings. It's not probably going to happen for a second game. But if you can turn them over a bit, they've shown a propensity to turn the ball over because they forced a lot of takeaways this season. They're, I think, 6th in the NFL in takeaways this year, but their turnover margin's really, really bad. It's 18 takeaways for the defense is top 10 in the NFL. They've also given the ball away 12 times. 11 interceptions, 11 fumbles. 10 of those interceptions have come from Sam Darnold. In the games where they have turned the ball over 2 or more times, they are 4-3. So still pretty good. You still have a winning record. In the games where you're not generating turnovers, this team is 5-0. 5-0. So that's your magic number. You got to get them to 2 turnovers. And I think ultimately, with this pass rush, you should be able to generate some of that and really get into their face and cause some problems, And I think that's really the biggest thing here for this team. Defensively. Offensively, this is a defense who doesn't allow a lot of rushing yards. So Bijan Robinson they're going to have to get creative with how they use Bijan. I don't think that this factors into a Tyler Algier game very effectively. This is the kind of game where I think you start seeing a Bijan Robinson in the screen game, maybe in just like an extension of the rushing attack. You see that a lot in college football, but I think that that's something that Zach Robinson's going to have to do here against the Seahawks defense. Ultimately, like I mentioned before, they're good at getting takeaways, and they're also really good at getting pressure. And Kirk Cousins doesn't move very well. So ultimately, there's a pretty glaring reason why the Falcons are pretty stark underdogs in this game. I think the line was up as much as a touchdown or something like that, which is absolutely brutal. But there's a reason for that. It's because this team's lost 6 of the last 7 games. And you have a coach on the hot seat and you have an offensive coordinator, a backup quarterback who's starting for you, which, not really a fair way to describe Kirk Cousins, but that's a reality. He's the backup quarterback because your starter got hurt. And that's just kind of where this team finds itself. But another thing working against this Atlanta Falcons, I'll talk to you about that here after I get to some of your questions. All right, folks, let's dig in just a little bit. Rusty, he's going to start us off over there on YouTube. Rusty says, Garrett, just curious, not looking good for any specifics, but what is the vibe you guys, Atlanta media, are getting about Blank's intentions as far as Terry and Raheem go? I think Terry's contract is up too. He follows it up and says, just curious if you think he's leaning one way or the other, or if he is truly undecided at this point. All right, so Rusty, to answer your question, we don't talk to Arthur Blank. He is not available to the media, but Jeremy Fowler from ESPN has given an update on this. He says that he has a lot of respect for Raheem Morris. He says that there's absolutely a world where Raheem Morris returns next season because there are some extra factors that are outside of Raheem's control that have dictated a lot of what has gone wrong with this team this year. Mainly your quarterback got hurt. Your star receiver got hurt. You lost games from A.J. Terrell this season. You lost both your guards at various points. Your left tackle got hurt. Your right tackle was lost at the beginning of the season. Your swing tackle was lost. Divine Diablo, you're probably your most indispensable player on defense. He got hurt. Your leading sacker got hurt. Zach Harrison. Look, this team has been bombarded by injuries this season. It's been absolutely brutal. Now, they weren't all that great before the injuries. So, personally, I'm not the one who makes the decisions. But this team is struggling. And I think it just revealed more of the problems that this team really had. And it's just very unfortunate this team is completely out of contention right now. And I don't think coaching helped. I don't think coaching helped because they've said it themselves. It's a next man up mentality. You have to have that in this league. It's critical for you to have that mentality in this league. Everybody does. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers, they lost their starting quarterback for several weeks. They persevered because they had an elite head coach. They have a great defensive coordinator. They lost all pro players across the board. You lost an all-pro tight end. You lost an all-pro linebacker, the best linebacker in the NFL, the best tight end in the NFL. You lost your $55 million quarterback. So ultimately, I'm not the one who makes decisions. I'm leaning one direction. I don't know what direction that Arthur Blank is necessarily leaning. It's the reality of this league. You're 4-8 in a season that you were supposed to be going to the postseason. Results talk and results matter. And ultimately, I don't think that having Michael Penix was really going to change much. I just think that Terry's done a pretty poor job of setting up this team for success. He's been a general manager here for 5 years now. They haven't had a winning record once. I understand he was handed a pretty bad hand here by Thomas Dimitroff, who was a fantastic general manager for many years, but he left behind a pretty sizable mess. Terry cleaned it up, mostly just by stripping it down completely. And he's added some great pieces. He has. But at some point, not getting the quarterback position right, which he has not to this point, the jury's still out on Michael Penix. I do not think that Kirk Cousins is going to be back. It depends on what Kirk Cousins really does in this game or down the stretch even. Because this is a guy who, he's fine. Like, look, he's not making big throws in the same way that he was when this team started 6-3 last year. They had not been able to return to that level of dominance, what they were doing on offense. And that includes that decrepit performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers week 1 of last year. That offense was clicking. They were playing at a high level, and they just haven't been able to get back to that. And I think some of it is like Kirk got hurt, and I think Kirk lost a little bit of, I don't know if he lost confidence necessarily, but I think that he started second guessing himself down the stretch last year. And I think that there's some carryover from that. That's just the reality, right? So it's a tough spot that the Falcons find themselves in. I don't know what the future of Raheem Morris is ultimately going to be, much less Terry Fontenot. I don't know what Arthur Blank is thinking, but I do know that there were expectations for this season and they haven't been met. And I would be curious. So according to the report from Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, he said that there is a chance that Raheem Morris comes back next year with just new coordinators. If I'm an offensive coordinator, I don't know what offensive coordinator is going to walk into that situation where he doesn't know when his starting quarterback is going to be returning from an injury. He doesn't know what his general manager is going to do. You would potentially have a new general manager. I don't know what the report was with Terry, but you could be looking at a lame duck head coach next season. And that's a tough situation for you to be in as an offensive coordinator. Now, it's the NFL. You only have 32 of these jobs. So ultimately, it's going to be up to whoever makes those decisions, Arthur Blank, and we'll go from there. But it's just a bad situation, and I understand that there's a lot of frustration felt across the country. Across the city. Lots of frustration, and I share it. So whatever actually ends up happening, we'll see. They're not technically eliminated from the playoffs yet. Technically. It's you'd have to win out and get an absurd amount of help. But keep on rolling through. All right, Todd Smith says, "Sir, I'm all die respect. Why should we support this team?" Because if you're a Falcons fan, you should support your team. That's it. If you're a Falcons fan, support your team. If you're not a Falcons fan, then don't support them. Look, players are playing hard, coaches are coaching hard, and you only get 17 of these games. You only get 17 games. So do what you will with that information. I can't tell you what to do. You're currently watching a Falcons podcast. So, I mean, I guess that's the first one. So New York fan, 525 Bruce says, rise up, New York fan here. What up, man? Welcome into the show. Appreciate you being here. If it is your first time here, anybody out there who's watching, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you again. We do this every single Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. We kind of go, we just answer your questions, kind of roll through and kind of dig into some Falcons topics and stuff like that. We'll get into an injury report here just coming up here in just a moment. Keep on rolling through. So Michael Ronquillo always hits with the double hearts. Good to see you, buddy. Halsey, HFW says, reminder, Darnold signed with Vikings for a fraction of Cousins' deal. That is correct. Kirk Cousins left the Vikings. They go and sign, or they sign Sam Darnold to be the backup quarterback for J.J. McCarthy. So that you're correct, Halsey. I mean, that's what they did. And they fully anticipated drafting a quarterback. And then the quarterback got hurt. He tore his ACL at the beginning of, or sometime in training camp in August last year. And Darnold came in, balled out, earned himself a new contract. And shoot, I mean, theoretically, Kirk Cousins can do the same with the Falcons down the stretch. We don't know. Still a lot of football to be played. A month and a half of football to be played, basically. So, yeah, it's just as far as, I mean, Sam Darnold, things change quickly. He was a former number 3 overall pick. So, I mean, the guy was always talented. We talked to Jeff Holbrick about it. We talked to Kirk Cousins himself about it. And they have a lot of respect for for Sam Darnold. They have a lot of respect for him. He's a talented player, and he's got an awesome arm strength. He's got good intelligence. He's got good football know-how. And look, he does a good job. It's just when you accelerate his clock, that's generally when he's not able to sit back and beat you. That's the biggest key for this Falcons team is get some pressure, force some mistakes. He's shown a propensity to do that. So that's your key for it. And it's not a knock on Darnold as much as it is just kind of who he's been over the course of his career. Morgan Colley says, you're definitely not wrong. Appreciate it. I don't like being wrong. Leo Mapstone says, hello, what's up, my man? Halsey comes back and says, nobody wants to see Cousins again next year. If Penix gets hurt or benched, QB will be in major need. Yeah. So I would say you were correct. I would say that this is a Falcons team who does not know what they're going to do at quarterback right now. They are in a very, very difficult spot because the timeline for a return for Michael Penix would slate him sometime potentially in August. And that's scary because it's a young quarterback who needs to develop, and he's got a lot of work he needs to do. And he's going to get dropped right into the bucket. He's going to lose one of the most valuable off seasons of a young player's career. Early in your career, throughout your career, the off season is important because that's when you practice. That's when you hone in those abilities. And he's going to miss that opportunity. So I worry a lot about what his progression is going to look like. He's already an older young quarterback, if that makes sense to you. I mean, he's not what like J.J. McCarthy is necessarily, who's one of the younger quarterbacks in the league, or Cam Ward. Well, I guess Cam Ward's a little older too. But the point is he's a little older and he needs a lot of work. He needs practice. Every young quarterback does, right? That's just a natural progression, and getting hurt at this stage of your career just really sucks. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the Falcons do to address that. I think ultimately, I'm not saying go get Marcus Mariota, but there's that type of situation where you need to go get a bridge quarterback, somebody like a Tyrod Taylor or somebody of that ilk, somebody who can come in here and just carry the torch for a little bit while he ramps up and gets back healthy. I do not think that guy is Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins is going to command a hefty contract, one that you can, for the most part, get out of. So Falcons are going to do that. And I would be very surprised if Kirk Cousins is even in Flowery Branch next season. But I mean, as far as Penix goes, I mean, we'll see what he looks like next year. It's so worrisome. So worrisome. Keep on rolling through. Halsey comes back. If you have questions, by the way, drop them into the chat. I'm more than happy to jump to as many as I can. Halsey says, support the Falcons because think of all the jobs the stadium supports. Okay, yeah, that's another way to think about it, Halsey. But ultimately, like, this is a team. This is your team. Support them. This is a Falcons team who needs some support right now, and this is a lot of young players who I think that they're the future bedrock of this team. We talked about it on the last episode on Tuesday. I mean, this is a situation where you have some young cats on this defense, specifically on the defense, that are going to be the cornerstone of your franchise moving forward. With Brandon Dorlus, and you have Rukaroro and Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. You might have a defensive rookie of the year on that unit. Now, mathematically, it's that cat up in Cleveland right now. He's the betting favorite, but those are really, really good players. And I think that ultimately, if they keep getting some sacks, they're going to start generating some interest for that award. So, I mean, this team still has some things that they can hang their hat on, things to look forward to for the rest of the season. It's just a damn shame that the offense and the quarterback position have been so poorly managed. And it's just the way that it's all gone out is just very disappointing. But, I mean, it's going to be an interesting spot for them. All right. I'm going to go back to some of your questions here. Shy Boogie says, do you think we will keep Raheem after this year? Shy, no, I don't think so. I think that ship largely has sailed. You're 4-8 in a gotta-have-it season. You know, you're staring down the barrel of an 8th straight season below 500. Still mathematically is possible that you go shoot forward and you win the rest of your games and whatever. I just think it's foolish to think that that's going to happen. I mean, maybe they can jump on a Seahawks team or a Rams team I don't think that there's necessarily an elite football team in the NFL this year. I think every team has several detriments, and I don't think that there is like that top end team right now. I think that can change, but you go across the league, these teams are very vulnerable. This Seahawks team is very vulnerable. They're not I mean, look, they're scoring 29 points per game on offense. They got a defense who's taking the ball away and forcing shutouts, right? They just shut out a team last week. This is a team that's fully capable of whipping the crap out of its opponents. That team could be the Falcons because the Falcons have also shown that they have the propensity to get their ass kicked. But they've also shown the propensity to go tit for tat with the New England Patriots. They lost that game by 1 point. They lose to the Colts in overtime by 6. Like this is a team who I think ultimately has been extremely disappointing, but they also have shown the ability to play in big games. They rise to the moment. It's just that they also fall just as quick. One of the reasons why I think Raheem will be let go by the end of the season, because they mirror the personality of their head coach. And that has been a pretty consistent theme for them this season. Going in last year too. It's just your last 20 games, I think you've lost 14 of them, something like that. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And it's very frustrating. The quarterbacks that you have beaten, what is it? I mean, the list is not great. Going back to over that stretch of your last 20 games, it's Tyler Shugg, it's JJ McCarthy. I mean, it's Marcus Mariota. Not great. Desmond Ridder. Not a lot of talent there. That's a pretty glaring indictment of your head coach. And look, I don't cheer for coaches to lose their job. I don't cheer for guys to lose their job. It's not what I do. It's not my place to do that necessarily. But I am being honest. It is my job to provide my opinion, and that's my opinion. I think ultimately the head coach is fallen short. Shai comes back and says, I think we need better leadership because we have too much talent to be losing like this. I would always push back on the talent thing. I pushed the talent thing for a long time because I saw the talent firsthand. It's been pretty clear that this team just hasn't been good enough. And to your point that with the talent, I think there is talent on this team. I think talent has been the enemy of success at Flowery Branch. And let me explain what I mean. Kyle Pitts is talented. I don't think Kyle Pitts is a good football player for this team. That's just kind of how I feel. Darnell Mooney is talented. I don't think Darnell Mooney has been a very good football player on this team. There are a lot of players just like that. There's a lot of talent up there, but they just haven't been able to put all that stuff together. And ultimately, that is the difference between winning and losing. And you talk about these close games and everything else. The close games are great. The NFL is a game of close games. That's what this is. Margin of victory is razor thin. And when you have self-inflicted errors constantly on a week-to-week basis, whether it's missed extra points, muffed punts, poor punt coverage, blown assignments, dropped passes. Those are self-inflicted. I can point to it. There are several games this season that the Falcons should have won, but shoulda, woulda, and coulda. Doesn't win in the league. That's the nature of this game. You have to be big in the biggest moments, and the Falcons are not. They have not. And I think it's a reflection of leadership, and that's ultimately what this is going to come down to. Again, that's my opinion. I'm not predicting things, just where the situation falls. You're not winning games. And I do not feel like there is confidence that they are going to be able to find success down the stretch. Because you got a Bucs team next week who wants to stick it to you and seal this division. And they might do it. You lose this week and you're eliminated from the playoffs. You're done. I think it's a loss and a Packers win, and you're eliminated from the postseason wild card, and you are eliminated from the division race if the Bucs win and you lose. So you got 5 games for that to happen. And it's just mathematically, it's just not happening. So it's just where this team finds itself. And it's so frustrating. They have talent. They've got some talent, but it is what it is. Halsey over there on YouTube drops in and says, who would be the ideal Robin to Bijan's Batman? I feel like the Falcons might benefit from a more dynamic backup running back instead of expensive meat and potatoes Algier. I see what you're saying. If you can get if you can get Algier back here on $4 million, I think you'd do it. I know, Halsey, I think it was you who asked me this on Tuesday. I kind of thought it through a little bit. If you can get him here for $4 or $5 million, I think this team would be interested in doing that. He is a really good running back, and he's not just a meat and potatoes, right? I mean, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can do a lot of different things. He's a good pass blocker. He can be a 3-down back. I just don't think he's going to stay for $4 or $5 million. I think he's going to want to go get a $10 million contract, and power to him. I think he can go make an impact in this league. I think he compares favorably, in my opinion, to what Michael Turner was, the burner Turner here in Atlanta. He leaves San Diego Chargers, comes here to Atlanta. He was playing behind LaDainian Tomlinson, a dynamic back who compares, ironically, very favorably to what Bijan Robinson is. And he sets off. That's what I think Tyler Algier can be. I think that's the perfect comp for him. So if I'm Tyler Algier, why am I holding myself back? I don't want to be a backup running back. I think he's a great guy. I love Tyler Algier too. And I think he loves this locker room. I think he loves playing alongside of Bijan Robinson. And look, David Montgomery, he re-upped up in Detroit. Maybe you see that. But I think ultimately the better situation is for Algier to leave. But if you can keep him, I would love to. But as far as an ideal fit, I don't know. I think ultimately I doubt you can draft somebody because you just don't have a lot of draft capital, and spending it on a backup running back is not something that you want to be doing. In a perfect world, you'd probably get one in the second or third, fourth round or something like that. And then that's your guy, I guess you could say. But I mean, you can go get a UDFA. Nathan Carter is on this roster now. I don't know. I don't think that backup running back is the place that I'm going to be focusing a lot of my attention, because you can get something. I mean, look at what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done. They've done masterful work at finding backup running or younger running backs who are on affordable contracts and deeper in the draft or a UDFA. And they come in and go be a Bucky Brooks, right? So we'll see what the Falcons actually end up doing with that. But I'm not putting too much stock into that. I have a piece coming out hopefully here soon about potential free agents that the Falcons would want to retain on their roster, or some that they might end up having to let go. But we'll talk about that next week, probably. That'll be a topic for next week, just as we kind of get through these final 5 games of the season. On Facebook, Morgan comes in and says, what are our chances of picking up Terrell's brother in the draft? None. Probably exceedingly small, if any. It's a good question. But AJ Terrell's brother, of course, coming out of Clemson, just like he did. He's going to be probably a top 25 pick. I would imagine he falls somewhere in the 20s, maybe in the late teens. he's a first-round pick, and the Falcons, of course, don't have their first-round pick. So I do not think that that's going to be realistic for the Falcons. If he drops, maybe there's a medical concern, maybe there's something else. We're not deep into the throes of draft coverage yet, but we will be soon. I just think based off of what I have seen so far, going back to last season, he is going to be a first-round pick, and I just don't think that it's going to work out too well. But I love that. The idea of having the Terrell brothers on either side, I love that idea, especially the fact that they're both from Atlanta. I love that. I think it'd be great, but I just think it's probably not going to end up happening. JBlack142 over there on YouTube says, Penix's development has been hindered by Ra and Zach. That is not his fault, despite his need to show initiative in his footwork. Showing initiative, he's a professional quarterback. He's absolutely shown initiative. But we don't know ultimately how much he's been stunted. We don't know how much he's been hindered necessarily. I think that Zach has held him back to some degree on the field. But as far as his development goes, I don't know. I'm not a QB guru, right? I'm not going to get too deep into the progressions and other things like that a quarterback's going to make. But his footwork needs work. I know that. I know that his ability to process the middle of the field and attack the middle of the field, that needs to show improvement too. I can look at the data. I can look at what the film tells me. It tells me that he has not had a good year, right? And it's just standard for a young quarterback. I think a lot of people had too high of expectations for him coming into this season. I did a show on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. I did a whole weekend segment on it. Literally, like a whole show basically just on Michael Penix. And I had people calling in and I was like, hey, what do you guys expect from Michael Penix this year? People were throwing out 4,500 yard seasons. They said they were comparing it to Matt Ryan in 2016. And I'm like, guys, let's take a step back. Let's breathe and put some realistic expectations on this. Next step for Penix is to get healthy. After that, I think he's going to have a new offensive coordinator and a new play caller. And we'll see what that actually looks like. But he has not, whatever the next step is for him, I think it's going to be something that we need to follow closely. And what that looks like, it remains to be seen. But I appreciate the question. Appreciate the comment. If you have any of those, I will be getting to as many of those as I can. Shy Boogie over there on Facebook says that they have to give us something to support because the head coach looks like he is lost out there. I don't think that's completely fair necessarily, but yeah, look, the Falcons have to give fans something to support. And I think ultimately that's another reason why I do not think that Raheem Morris is going to be back next year. The team has not been good enough. Just wins and losses. Halsey HFW on YouTube says, is Mariota the best post-Ryan quarterback so far? Man, that's a low bar. That's tough. No, I will tell you that because I think Kirk Cousins is. I think that's pretty clear that Kirk Cousins is and was the best quarterback since Matt Ryan. It also shows you how good Matt Ryan was. And look, I said for years that this city is completely spoiled by having Matt Ryan here. And so many people wanted to ship him off. I want to go draft the next guy, go do this and cut Matt, well, whatever. The most ridiculous thing, the most ridiculous thought. And I think that nobody has come out of this drought looking as good as Matt Ryan. Full credit to him. But it's not Marcus Mariota. No, unfortunately. No, it's definitely Kirk Cousins. That 9-game stretch where, he's an NFC player of the week. And he's doing all these other big things. He's got this Falcons team at 6-3. They're riding high. It's just he got hurt. He got hurt after that. And they weren't the same afterwards. So, but no, I'll go with Kirk. He's also by far the most accomplished quarterback. Marcus Mariota, aside from being the number 2 overall pick, hasn't really accomplished all that much. It's definitely not Desmond Ridder. Michael Penix, the jury is still out. So I hope it's Penix. I hope Penix is the right answer, but time will tell. Halsey says Cousins is a talented salesman. Quarterback, not as much. He is a good salesman. I think ultimately if Kirk Cousins wanted to go into sales, he would be very good at it. I think he'd be great at it. He's smart. He's got a lot of charisma, I guess you could say. Nice guy. But no, I think he'd be a good salesman though. It's funny. Will Spruill Says, do you think we keep Kirk Cousins after this year? No, I do not think so. I think his time in Atlanta has come and passed. I think that is, I can't speak for him necessarily, but I think that he would be of interest to leave Atlanta. I think the bridge has been burned. I think the bridge got burned when Michael Penix was selected, and then things got better, and then he got hurt, and there's a reason he didn't tell the Falcons why he was hurt. There's a reason for that. It's because he doesn't trust the organization. He doesn't trust the coaches. He doesn't trust the staff. That's my opinion on that. I can't verify that. He hasn't told me that necessarily, but writing's on the wall. When you get hurt and you're not going to tell the staff or the trainers or anything else what's going on, you call it a clerical error. It says that you do not trust the people around you. And there is nothing with if you do not have trust. I would fully expect him to be somewhere else in 2025. Shy over there on Facebook says, we have a good O-line, one of the top running back rooms in the NFL, a top 10 defense. Our offensive coordinator, Bucks, sucks because he's not doing anything to help this young quarterback. Well, the young quarterback's hurt. There's nothing else he can do at this point for the young quarterback this year. His job right now is to get back and get healthy. That's Michael Penix's sole responsibility right now. But no, I mean, I think that's one of the most frustrating things about this team right now, Shy, and you nailed it. I think this is it's a solid offensive line, but you're banged up. You lost your right tackle. You lost your swing tackle. It's been fine. I don't think that this offensive line has necessarily been good. I think that they have been closer to bad more times than not this year. You've had some terrible cut pressures that have been allowed. You've had some just marvelous plays from Bijan Robinson to just completely gloss over some errors and miscues from your offensive line. I think Ryan Newsel has had a below average season at center. I think most of these guys have been just okay. Very rarely have you seen them put together a full 60-minute game. It's just unfortunate. But I mean, look, Bijan Robinson, I think, is the best running back in the NFL. He's that good. And the defense has been, by most metrics, a top defense in the NFL. It's just your offense has been bad despite having the players that you do. Your defense has been put in very precarious situations by poor special teams play. And it's just the nature of where this team is right now. It's just the defense is too good to be 4-8. Let's just put it that way. All right, I'm going to take a couple more questions. Let's see. August 809 says, Falcons play their best ball after they're basically eliminated from the playoffs. You might see them win like 3 or 4 games to end the season, and Raheem comes back. Worst case scenario. I personally want to see this team win a couple of games. I know a lot of people talk about tanking for draft picks and stuff like that. I want them to win because I don't want to hear all offseason about how the Falcons handed the Rams a top 10 pick, especially from these uninformed podcasters or social media presences, people who do not know what the hell they're talking about. The fact that we got James Pierce Jr. and Xavier Watts out of that deal. They have no idea who James Pierce Jr. is. They just know that the Rams all of a sudden have a draft pick. And I don't want to hear that. I don't want to read it. I don't want to see it on social media. I don't want to see other people ammunition for other folks. I want this team to win a couple of games for that reason and that reason alone. But it's also because I want to cheer on the Atlanta Falcons to go get a win. So, but to your point, I mean, maybe it does end up getting Raheem retained. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that happened with Dan Quinn in 2019. Kept him in, and then you lose the first 5 games of 2020, and then it's a lost year. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think this team had serious expectations. That 2019 team was different because you were still 3 years removed from going to a Super Bowl. You're 2 years removed from being in the playoffs and a play away from going back to the NFC Championship game against the Eagles. I mean, that's a different situation. So ultimately, no, I think whatever Arthur Blank is going to do, he's going to do. But I don't think it'd be the worst case scenario for the Falcons to win a couple of games to finish the season out. Let's keep on going through. Michael Rojas says, Atlanta could move up to the late 20s to draft and give up their second round. Absolutely not. Michael, I appreciate the thought. You have to just bear it at this point. You're not giving up a second round pick and that's it to move into the first round. You're probably giving up a future first or so much draft capital that to get back up into the first round. You're not doing it. The Falcons don't have draft capital. They don't. They are missing so many draft picks coming into next year. They are not going to trade up. I would actually say they're more likely to trade back. They need players. They need players. That's so important for this team. It's something that's flared up in the worst way this year, and it's because you're not drafting your guys. A lot of these guys and then a couple of them get hurt. You're just scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to fill a roster at this point, and this is a critical thing. It's because you haven't had a Troy Anderson and guys like that who've stepped in. There's no Braylon Trice, a third-round pick, who's just all of a sudden just gone. You've lost a lot of these guys. And the Falcons are not going to be trading up in the draft. I do not think it's going to happen. I feel pretty definitively about that. Halsey says another possibility Falcons fans don't seem to want to discuss is maybe Penix at 8 really was a big reach. No, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. There was a lot of talk that there were several teams who were looking to go get him. That's just what I've heard. That's what I read after draft night. Falcons went and got a guy. I think he's a great player. I think he's somebody who showed a lot of promise, and I don't think he's a wasted pick by any means. We're not there yet. We're not even done with year 2. Well, technically, he's done with year 2, but it's just a really frustrating knee injury, and we'll see what he actually does to come back from it. But the jury is not completely out on Michael Penix. So, no, I'm not willing to go there yet. Michael Rojas says, thoughts on Ryan Newsell's performance this year? He's been all right. It just sucks to watch Drew performing well in a different uniform. Dahlman is probably one of the only good draft picks that Terry Fontenot had at the very beginning of his career here in Atlanta. And I mean, Drew Dahlman's he's been a solid player, a good contributor here for the Chicago Bears this year. A team who's just, I think ultimately that's the difference in having a dynamic play caller. That's the difference. That's why the Bears have been able to find a lot of success this year. Ryan Newsell's been fine. It's one of those things I kind of wish that they brought in a little bit of competition for him. But again, this is one of those spots where I don't want to be too critical of somebody necessarily. But I mean, Drew Dahlman was, and Halsey just said it there, Dahlman was a popular scapegoat at times. Yeah, he definitely was. He was. But I think the center is, generally speaking, one of the big scapegoats. And they get blamed for a lot of things, whether it's their fault or not. But he sets protections, and I think there's a lot that has gone wrong in terms of protections. And whether it's his fault or not, I mean, we don't know that for sure. But I'd say that his performance is below average. I think that this is how I would say. August 809 says, or AUG 809, I'm assuming it's August. They're playing with a third-string right tackle, which will likely contributed to Penix's injury. I mean, it's football. Football's football. People get hurt in football. Kirby Smart said it really well. You can't be afraid to play the game. It's sure. I mean, theoretically, it is. It looks like our stream stopped on Facebook. So if you are on, well, I guess it's coming to an end. Interesting. All right, but ultimately, this is I just got a big error message. Sorry, that's weird. But they were playing with a third string right tackle. Yeah, I mean, like that's a reality. They're playing with a third string right tackle, but you move on and you adapt and you overcome. Elijah's been playing fine for most of the season. He's been okay. Like he hasn't been awful. I think he's been kind of absorbed into what has been an average unit. And that's not the sole reason that Michael Penix got hurt. He got hurt because he was playing football. You can't point to any one thing necessarily. It's just I'm not willing to do that. All right, last thing here. I want to dive through this injury report, and then we'll wrap it up. If I see a couple more questions, maybe we can get to those as we have time. But biggest thing is the fact that Drake London's nowhere to be found. He is not available as of right now. That gets me very worried for Sunday. Raheem did pretty much say that there is a chance that he will not practice and then he'll suit up and play just because he's that type of player. I don't think that it's working out that way necessarily, but I think the Falcons really, really need him to be back if he can. But he is considered day to day. Tomorrow's practice is going to be pretty telling for Drake. If he does not practice tomorrow, then I would be a little worried. But the other one is Brandon Dorlus. That's one that I am a little worried because it is a soft tissue issue. It is a groin injury for Brandon Dorlus. He popped up on the injury report on Wednesday. I don't know when that happened. Whether it happened on Sunday against the Jets or not remains to be seen. But David Onyemata, DeMarco Helms, they're also on that injury report. Josh Woods, he should be coming back through. Chris Lindstrom, he should be good to go. I think Josh will probably be back to go and good to go on Sunday. The Falcons have really needed him in special teams, and Felipe Franks is another one of those. He's kind of had this lingering calf issue throughout the course of the season. I don't think it's going to cost him a game on Sunday, but Chris Lindstrom's kind of in that same line of thinking there. But that's the injury report here for the Falcons coming into Sunday. Friday's injury report is going to be really important to watch. So make sure you give me a follow at GChapATL. We'll have that come out as soon as I hear something. I'm going to be getting something out to you guys. So make sure to check it out there. Make sure to go check it out on Falcons on SI. Got a lot of great stuff coming up this weekend. I know I mentioned the burning questions. I've kind of rolled off some of those here for the Falcons. I got a couple more that I want you guys to go check out. So make sure you go do that. Make sure to sign up for that newsletter. They got that thing coming out, and then we can get it right into your inbox. And we can, read some Falcon stuff and have a good time with that. But the other big thing that we got coming up, I'm going to be doing a primer, just kind of setting the stage for some of these free agents that the Falcons are going to have. There are a lot of players who are in the final year of their deal. Some of them the Falcons would want to have back. Some they might wander on. But we'll talk about all of that and more. And then we'll address it here on the podcast next week. But we will do that then. So make sure to set your reminders every Tuesday and Thursday. We do the Falcons podcast with me, Garrett Chapman. So we will see you again on Tuesday, but we got a Falcons game on Sunday. So we will see how that one goes. Very excited for that one. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see if they can actually pull out a strong result, but we'll see. All right. But till next time, my name is Garrett Chapman. This is the Falcons podcast. Till next time, go Falcons.